Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Inside Guns with your host, me, the Yankee Marshal. Today, I want to take some time and address an email that came to me from a viewer. In this email, they said, hey, you like to do top 5 lists. I would like you to do a top 5 list telling people what you think are the top 5 things to never do while you're armed. Well, I've never thought about it that way before. I've never really thought about it as things to never do while you're armed. I've always thought of it more as the one thing you should do while you're armed is be responsible. But there are some things that I would say are a problem if you're carrying. Things that you shouldn't get involved in, mindsets you shouldn't have. So today I want to do a top 5 list of things that you should never do while you're armed. Now I'm going to present these in no specific order. And we're going to start off with, don't be a dick. Don't go out looking to intimidate someone, harass someone, or hoping that there's a problem. If you're doing that, you're carrying for the wrong reasons. And you might be saying, well, what do you mean by all that? Well, here are a couple examples. I have gone to gun rallies before and heard guys, holding their ARs saying, I hope someone tries something. I hope one of those Antifa group shows up. And I hope we get to shoot them, basically. That's the wrong mindset to have while you're carrying a gun. If you're looking for trouble, you shouldn't be there. I've also seen them just say, hey, I'm going to be holding my AR here. Whoever shows up ain't going to dare say a thing because I'm holding my AR. I'm like, so you're basically trying to intimidate people? You're trying to be a menace? That's not a good thing while carrying. That's the wrong mindset. Those are examples of being a dick. It's basically, don't go looking for trouble. Because if you look for trouble, you'll find trouble. And if you start trouble, then you're the problem. So when you're carrying a firearm, it's pretty simple. Don't look for trouble. Don't be a dick. Now, the next thing on the list is kind of similar, but opposite. And it is, don't be a hero. Don't go out looking to be a hero. A lot of people get a gun in their hands or on their hip or whatever, and now they think that they are Johnny Law. Which is a guy I went to school with, actually, Johnny Law. But you are not. That gun doesn't give you any extra responsibilities or extra authority in your life. It's there to protect you and your family and maybe innocent people. But it isn't to make a hero out of you or to make you some sort of protector. That's not what it's there for. That you do not have any more right to be involved in other people's business just because you're armed. And you shouldn't go looking for that. It's one thing if you go out and you're armed and you become a hero because a bad thing happens and you're able to deal with it. That's mainly the goal there. If something bad happens, you're able to deal with it. That's one of the reasons we carry, the main reason we carry. But you don't go looking for those situations. Because when you're a hammer looking for a nail, everything starts to look like a nail. I personally have knowledge of a situation in Huachuca, Arizona, where 2 friends got into a fight at a bar. The most they would have done is shove each other, probably yell obscenities at each other, maybe throw 1 or 2 punches, and then they would have apologized the next day and got on with their friendship. But someone in that bar decided they were going to get involved, and they were going to break it up because they had a gun, and therefore they were the law, they were the good guy, the hero. And because they got involved, 2 people got shot, neither of which were part of the original argument or with the guy who had the gun. They were innocent bystanders. Luckily, no one was seriously injured. No one died. But still, that was a situation that was, not ideal. 2 guys getting into a fist fight at a bar. But because some guy thought, hey, I'm going to be the hero, people got injured. That wouldn't have happened otherwise. When you go out looking to be a hero, you tend to aggrandize your own abilities and you tend to get involved when you shouldn't. It's not your job. We all hear the scenario of someone getting raped in the park and you shoot their attacker and then they're like, that's my husband, we're role playing. You don't know everybody's story. And if you walk around thinking that you should get involved in everybody's business because you want to be the hero, that can be a really bad thing. Like I said, it's great to be willing to help people, but make sure you do so in an educated and responsible manner and don't go around looking to be the hero because people who look to be the hero usually end up being the villain. Now, the next thing on the list is pretty self-explanatory and simple. If you're going to carry a gun, don't abuse alcohol. Now, a lot of people are going to say, why aren't you saying drugs and alcohol? It's because I just don't see drugs being as big a problem as I do alcohol. Almost every violent police call involves alcohol in some way. So if you're going to carry a gun, don't abuse it. Now, you notice I say don't abuse alcohol, not don't use alcohol. If you're someone who can't control yourself and you have an issue with alcohol, then yeah, abstain completely while you're carrying. If you're a responsible adult who knows, hey, I'm 210 pounds, I'm going to be there for 3 hours, I can have a few drinks, I'll be fine, then go ahead and carry, because you can drink responsibly. If you're someone who can't do that, don't carry. And don't carry if you know you're going to get shit-faced, especially. If you're like, I'm going out tonight and getting shit-faced, leave your gun at home. Because it is better to face whatever dangers are out there without a gun than it is to be a danger to other people with a gun. And if you've impaired yourself to the point you're shit-faced, then you're the danger. You're the bad guy once again. So don't do that. If you're going to drink heavily, don't carry. If you carry, don't drink heavily. If you can't drink in moderation, don't drink at all if you're carrying. It's pretty simple. You can make that decision before you leave your house. And I'm not saying that it's never okay to go out and get shit-faced. Like I said, it's fine with me. It's acceptable. You know, especially if you don't have a problem. Not everyone who goes out and gets drunk, like I'm going out this Friday and getting drunk, is an alcoholic. But make the decision beforehand that, hey, I'm not going to be completely in control of myself for a few hours. Therefore, my gun's staying at home. Just like if you know you're going to go to a bar and drink till you're drunk, then maybe don't drive to the bar. Take an Uber. Same thing. Same thing with your gun. If you're going to drink, do it responsibly. If you can't be responsible or you're not going to be responsible that night by choice, don't drive and don't carry your gun. It's pretty simple. Now, the next one on the list is one that I think a lot of guys have a problem with. I don't have as much problem with it now because I'm older, but I had a problem with it when I was younger. I had to make myself do this. And that is, don't let your ego dictate your actions. If you're walking down the street and you see a couple of people on the street or a group of people on the street that look unsavory, and you see they're harassing people walking by, etc., whatever, go the other side of the street, go down, then cross back over. Avoid them. Don't be like, oh, that makes me look unmanly if I avoid them. Who gives a shit? Avoid them. You're carrying a gun. You could end their life, or at least one of their lives, really easily. Heck, they might be armed. You might end up in a shootout that ends a lot of people's lives. But you can avoid that by crossing the street. If someone comes up to you in a bar or a public place and they're an asshole, don't engage with them. Walk away. I've done that many a times. Be the bigger person. Because like I said, that person who's out there being belligerent probably doesn't have the means to immediately put you down. You do. You're carrying a gun. You're carrying the great equalizer. They're probably some tough guy or some guy who's not as tough as he thinks he is. And when he gets some alcohol in him, he likes to act tough. And if you allow yourself to be sucked into that scenario, well, then you might find yourself in a situation where you're defending yourself in court, losing all your worldly belongings and having your life pretty much turned upside down. And you could have avoided that just by walking away. It's not unmanly to walk away. If you're not in any real danger, you walk away from something where you're probably not going to get hurt, but you do so because it's just not worth it. That's the more manly thing I think you could do. Children get drug into fights that they shouldn't be in. Adolescents fight fights they should never have started or never have let be brought to them. Adults know better. So when you're carrying your gun, be an adult. Make your decisions with your rational mind, not with your ego. Don't let the risk of feeling unmanly make you make a bad decision to where you end up in a place you never wanted to be. All right, now we're to the final thing that I think people should keep in mind while they're armed, things they should never do. And this is one that I think is very important. And it is never go anywhere or do anything while you are armed that you would not go to or you would not do if you were not armed. Now, I hear people say all the time, like, oh, I love this place, but it's very dangerous, so I wouldn't go if I wasn't armed. Well, then I say, don't go. That's kind of like the old don't look for trouble, as I said earlier. Because if you look for it, you'll find it. If you go to dangerous places, you're putting yourself at risk. And if you're armed, you're putting other people at risk. So don't do it. If there's somewhere you wouldn't go normally if you weren't carrying a gun, then you should just never go there. Unless you absolutely have to. And that most people don't have to go to places where they would have to carry a gun. Now, I understand, like, it's not safe to ride the bus home in my neighborhood unless you're armed. Well, you're dealing with a situation that you can't avoid. But if it's like, oh, that nightclub down the street's fun, but it's dangerous, that's something you can avoid. You would ride the bus home from work even if you weren't armed because you'd have no choice. So you can still do that while you're armed. Another aspect of that is don't let your gun write checks your ass couldn't cash without it. Don't be mouthy to someone who you know would whoop your ass if you didn't have a gun. So you only get brave when you have that gun. If having the ability to take someone else's life makes you braver, you probably should reconsider your maturity level and whether you should be carrying a gun. Because that's something you don't do. Like I say, if you wouldn't go there without a gun, don't go there with a gun. If you wouldn't do it without a gun, don't do it with a gun. Like I said, it's a pretty simple rule. But I see so many people violate it all the time. Wouldn't go there unless I was armed, so I'm going to be armed when I go there. I'm going to go over and confront this person, but I'm going to make sure I'm armed because I think he might be a violent guy. Then don't go confront them. Don't go over there. Don't do this. Don't do that. If you wouldn't do it and you didn't have a gun, if you can foresee that it is so dangerous that you need to be armed, then you should be able to foresee that it's so dangerous that you should not involve yourself in it. And that's a pretty simple rule. So if you follow these 5 simple rules, I think you'll probably never have a problem while carrying. In fact, the vast majority of people who carry never have a problem. But there are some bad apples. And like I said, good apples I don't think would do any of these things anyway. So the only rule is be responsible. But since someone asked, those are 5 things that I have seen people do that they should not do while armed. All right, everybody, that's it for me today. Thanks for coming. I do appreciate it. I hope you come back again tomorrow. Until then, remember, always carry, unless you're going to do one of those 5 things that we just said you shouldn't do while armed. And stay safe until I see you again. Welcome everybody. That was bad. Welcome everybody to another episode of what? Why can I not get my cake? I don't really know if there is a top 5 don't do things while you're carrying. Address a question that was asked to me by a viewer. Asked to me by a viewer. They asked, "Hey, the first and best way." Fuck! To never do why carry while blah 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 blah. That's the number one thing I say. Don't do while you're carrying a gun. No, it's not the number one thing. God damn, it's no particular order. I've heard people say things like all the time, like the number one thing because these are no particular. Fuck! While you're armed, don't go while you're. That you would not go to or do while you are armed. Fuck!